Hey everyone, welcome back to the stream. This is Coding It Wrong, aka more commonly Josh Justice, but as I always say, you can watch for a bit and you can decide for yourself whether you agree that I'm coding it wrong. We're here building an app for mobile and web with Expo. This is part 6 of our stream series. We'll see how far we go. And today the focus is all about testing. We made some progress on doing automated tests for our app last time, and we're going to fix some warnings and make some progress, polish it up, and get set to go in a couple days for our next stream on Friday to build out some new features. So I really want to get our tests sewn up in a good shape. The app that we're working on is called Firehose. It's a link saving app. I'm redoing the front end of this app in Expo, the React Native framework, so that we can deploy to iOS, to web, and it runs on Android as well. I don't have Android, so I'm not doing so much with that actively. But I don't want to do too much intro this time because we only have an hour. This is a special unique time this week as I'm on a break this week. So let's jump in and take a look at the code and the test and what we want to do from here. All right, here's our stream series and here's our running app. We actually have it running here. We do active development in iOS and on the web actively. Here's our unread links page, and we are loading from the back end these lists of links. And when we click on them, they open up in the web browser. All good to go and very nice there. So we wrote our functionality first, and now we're writing tests for it. So when I run yarn test, or my little shortcut for it here. Incidentally, if you want more info, if you're watching the stream, you can check out that link right down there to get to that stream intro page to talk more about the project and where we've come and where we're going. So we have this test, this unread screen test for the screen that we're on. And we see we're confirming that we render links from the back end. We open a link in the browser when clicked, and it allows us to mark a link as read, although we have it to do in that test for something else we need to test. Before we get to that to do though, the first thing I want to do today, and we look at my little personal to-do list here to make sure, I want to fix these warnings in the test output. There's a lot of warnings, it's cluttering it up, and it's making me uncertain what else might be going wrong in the test output. I'm not going to lie, component testing in React Native can be tricky at times. And I don't think I'm going to be able to fix all of these warnings today, but we're going to make some progress to get the test cleaner and hopefully give you tips for your own component tests with React Native testing library in your own React Native apps. There's some tips here for React Web as well that would also apply. So let's look at these warnings. So the first warning says cannot destructure property config of options as it is undefined. So that's down in the internals of these libraries, nothing in my code, but that's sort of an unfortunate error. It's not causing any of our tests to fail, but it's an error that's being outputted. The second error, Norfeld, hello. I've seen you commenting on the YouTube videos and follow on Twitch, and so I'm glad you're here, and thanks for your enthusiasm about the past videos. Hope you have a good time as we look into testing together. Please give any feedback, questions, or anything in the chat as we go along, so glad to have you. Another warning we're getting here is trying to use the icon dots vertical, but React Material Community icons could not be loaded. So that's another warning where these icons are loading up fine in the running app, but are warning us in the tests. Got to figure out what to do about that. And another one here, the big one for React testing, is warning, you called act without a wait. So we're going to need to look into that and experiment with that a bit. So these warnings, I spent some time this week looking into these because I didn't want to use up everybody's time on the stream. And as I looked into this icons error, I had trouble fixing it. So I put that on pause, and so I went back to this other error. And so it turns out this one has a fix that I think trickles down to fix the other errors. One of the downsides of these errors with React and React Native testing is it's not totally clear, like, have I done something wrong to cause them? What can I do to fix them? So some Googling is usually required. Let's pull up the, I think I have it up on the page here, this error. If you Google this error, one second, let me find it. You will find, oh, no, I don't have the link handy. One second here. Test warnings. Yeah, there we go. All right. So if you Google this error, you'll find this error reported in React Native Testing Library. And they say, this is an error specific to Jest 27. There's something in one of these libraries that is not expecting Jest 27 and the Jest 26 works. And that, in fact, worked fine for me on my other project, my other Expo web project. So we're going to try that here. And I have tried it already, and I've seen it work, but let's see. So we'll quit out of our tests. We're going to go, I just used the latest version of Jest, but we want to downgrade to Jest 26. Let's go to NPM, because I like to put the specific latest patch version in there. Let's find the latest version of Jest that is in 26, not in 27. Those of you who are real NPM wizards, you probably have another way you can find this. Oh, it's pretty easy to find in the scrolling list. 26.6.3. So if we say, I want Jest 26.6.3, this is going to allow us to downgrade to a version that should work. Cool, so we've downgraded Jest to version 26. If we look at the diff and the lock file, probably at some point, yeah, there, 26, that should work. So let's try just running our tests again. Oh, something I want to do, I want to go ahead and create a branch. I do want to work in branches now that we have our CI running. That way on our branches, we can confirm that everything is working on the server as well before we merge things down. So we have a test refinement branch here. All right, we have a warning. We have the act warning, but notice our immediate error that we were getting about the can't destructure property config, that's gone away, so that's improved. Also, notice that that icon error went away as well. And so this is something, if you're working on React Native, you gotta become okay with uncertainty. I don't know exactly why that other warning went away. I don't feel like it's the best use of my time to dig into exactly why. We're just in a better space now, and that's good enough for now. So I'm gonna commit this change. I'm gonna put a longer message, downgrade Jest to 26 to fix error about config and options. And I'm actually gonna link to the issue in case that's ever helpful for future reference. Oh, why am I running on Jest 26? Now my commit message has a link to help explain it. So we fixed that test warning. I will say, without going into too much detail, that I spent an hour or two trying to look into this act warning, and in this case, I couldn't fix it. I found there's something specific about the situation we're in and all the things that are happening in this test that makes it hard to fix. If you are able to fix these act warnings in all cases in your project, that is great, and I feel glad for you, son. Oh, that's referencing a problematic song. I'm sorry about that. That song is not good. Yeah, I am not able to fix these act warnings all the time, unfortunately. So we're gonna have to move forward with this. This is gonna be good enough for us for now. And now we wanna move forward to our next thing we wanna work on. Is I wanna update this test to confirm that mark red is hidden. And actually, I found another issue as I worked through this. I'm gonna pull up my cheater code that I did previously to see how this worked. So if we directly move towards this, this is going to uncover another problem in our test that's going to allow us to refine our test even further. So if you look previously, we click on Actions, which is on the Actions thing over here. Then we make sure that mark red is available, and then we click on it. We make sure that a call is made to the server to mark that link as red. And now we want to make sure that mark red is no longer in place. And so there is an API in React Native, testing library React Native that can help us with that. It's wait for element to be removed. And this is similar to wait for. We can use it in a similar way. So we want to say, after we call that server request, we want to wait for the element to be removed. Wait for element to be removed. And you still just pass get by text mark red in there. So we want to make sure that it goes away after our request. So let's let this run. So it says, so we're not getting a lot of help here. It says it timed out and wait for element to be removed. That's a bit surprising because if I do click on this, I do see it removed successfully in the production running of my app, but it says it's not removed. Also, we get more act async warnings. I'm going to narrow down just to this one test to avoid some of the noise that I can manage to avoid. But we are still getting 2 of these act warnings here. And so I really, when I was looking into this in advance because I wanted to make sure I could get this test working, and I struggle with it a lot. Finally, what I found out, let me just add something into here to show you. Catch E, let's just say catch console.error. is that not actually outputting? That should be outputting. I'm pretty sure that was the problem that was happening. So then catch. Well, okay, now I got to add some extra logging here to find out. Like, so what is happening? Are we actually setting the bookmarks? So we say success. Console error E. So which of these is happening? I'm trying to confirm in my test, are we actually receiving the bookmarks to be able to set them? And we will find out. Yeah, success, data, ID, attributes. Oh, this is not the request. No, this is the bookmark client request to load stuff. It's the bookmark client update that I want to find out about. So this is what I ended up investigating. Let's try this. Well, and that's not outputting either. All right, well, let's find out. Let me just clear up that other previous unnecessary stuff. I could add a then into here as well. Oh, you know what? I think the problem is actually that I'm using async await here, so I should do this in a different way. So let's do try catch E, console error E, console log success, because we're awaiting it. So we actually don't need this. I think this is what I did, and this should give us more clarity. Success. Oh, I don't want this success, cluttering things up. It's good to have these fast running tests so I can make these changes. All right, here we go. Now we're getting an error. Error, type error, cannot read properties of undefined, reading then at resource update, try catch. So this is within a resource client within mark read, resource update. So this is saying within bookmark client.update, it's looking for a .then that it can't find. And so the reason why is because we are mocking the response to HTTP GET, but when this bookmark client.update calls HTTP.patch under the hood, it's not resolving to anything. It's actually not returning a promise. So this is erroring out. So although my real app is making real requests to the server and succeeding, my test is not properly stubbing that out. And so we're actually not getting the output that we should. The test, it is correct. The test code is really not getting to the point that mark read is being removed. So I need to set up the stubbing better to do it. And this is part of, since you don't want your test to hit a real backend, you do need to set this out in your stubbing. So this is good. So this is a good reminder to me, even though when I'm doing test-driven development and I try to write the minimal code, you probably do want a console error in there or some way to let you know that an error occurred. Otherwise, you're going to get this silent failure in your tests. So I think I do actually, oops, that response is not a thing. I do actually want to come back and write a test to make sure this console error happens. But first, let's just use this benefit to get this other previous test passing before we go back and test that. So I want to mock this out as well. We just want to say http.patch.mock resolved value to get it to resolve to something. And when I was testing this out, well, sometimes I really like to put the minimum test data needed in my tests to get things to work, to sort of minimize coupling. So let's see if we just say, hey, if patch resolves, it's a resolved promise, maybe that'll be enough to get the test to pass. And it should at least get us past the current failure we're getting. All right, past those warnings. Cannot read properties of undefined, reading data. So at some point in our test, it's actually expecting patch to resolve to an Axios promise resolving that has a .data on it. So the next thing I want to try is to say JSON API response, and we'll pass nothing to it. So it's as though the data property of it was undefined. But this might be enough to give us enough structure that our third-party library, Josh party library, will actually succeed. And it does. It gets to the end. So once we have patch actually resolved to a real JSON API response, We're able to get through there. It goes through successfully. Is it logging out success? It is. And it's going to the point where we're setting menu shown ID to null, and that is not being shown. Now, as I've said before, whenever we see a test pass, we want to see it fail afterwards when the application functionality is broken. And so I'm going to take, this to do needs to stay in here, but I'm going to take this out. So if we don't set the menu shown ID to null, will the test fail and catch the fact that the menu is not dismissed? And it does. It says timed out and wait for element to be removed. So our test is confirming that mark red never disappears, but with this added back in, it's confirming that it does disappear. Yeah. Oh, we can get rid of this success now. Where is that? That success is there. Cool. So let's commit these changes. Yeah, this is not needed. That was just part of my temporary editing. This try and catch we do need. I think I do like async await syntax here. Wait for element to be removed we need. We need to not include the dot only, but yes, include the mark resolve value, and then check that mark red is removed. Test that mark red is hidden. And my other changes in unread screen JS we don't need, so I'm actually going to go ahead and reset those changes. And the only change in unread screen is the dot only. So I would, as I mentioned, we put in this error here. Actually, you know what? I don't want this. I want to bring this back. So you can say git reset to get those changes back in here. I actually don't want to put this dot error in here right now. We use that in order to troubleshoot this, but I'd really like to get a test around putting that console error in. I think if we just put in these changes, test that mark red is removed, and if we stash the rest so that we still have the same implementation of mark red here, I think our test will still pass. And they do, warnings aside. Oh, we should address this animated issue as well. Let me see how I did that. So this error has now appeared as a result of this test. So there's some specific action that brings it up. Something about animated, and the native animated module is missing. Well, we're running in a JavaScript test, so no wonder that the native animated module is missing. So I found out how to do this by searching around. I found this in my other project. We want to create a file at the root of the project, a Jest setup file. And we can just call it jest.setup. In there, we're going to mock out. So what we've read is if you just mock out this native animated helper, it's going to make things work. Now we do get a warning here that Jest is not defined. It thinks this because this is not a test file. And so rather than messing with my ESLint configuration too much, I'm going to put a comment in here to disable it. I'm also going to make a comment about the fix. It's not obvious what this line is for and what it fixes, so I put the text of the specific error that it fixes in case it stops working in the future, or in case we wonder why it's in place, we'll know why. Then to get Jest to use this, we need to go into here, add a config that says setup files. And we'll say jest setup.js. That should do it. I might need to restart Jest, so let's check and see. Yeah, that warning still happens, so let me start from scratch. When you're changing core level configs like that, it can be a good idea to just restart Jest. Same way with React Native and any other running process you have. So we wait for our test to run. Takes a little while, but we need to wait to see it before we can move on. I wonder why it's taking so long in this case. OBS is using up my computer. All right, the test pass. We get that act warning, but that's the only warning we get. So we have actually solved the other warning. Fix animation warning. Cool. So we are testing that goes away. Now I would like to put in that console.error because that would be better in case something breaks in the tests otherwise. And it would be good to test that as well. I'd like to have a test around it. So this is a good example of testing an error case. So we say it logs an error to the console when marking a link as red fails. And we might do something different in the user interface when marking a link as read fails, but at least we want to do this. So let's see what we can copy down from this other test. Okay, we're going to mock HTTP. Now patch, in this case, what we want to do, there's any number of errors that could happen, but one thing we can do is mock rejected value. So just say, let's just assume the call to patch rejects. That's a good way to simulate an error and see what happens. We want to render the component, wait for actions, click mark as read. We don't need to expect that patch was called because in this test, because it was already tested here. And so now we want to say, what we'd like to be able to do is something like expect console.error. Oops, this is going to distract me. I need an async test to have been called with some error message. And we can fill in the real error message when we're done. So let's see what happens when we try to call this on console.error. It says, received value must be a mock or spy function. So console.error isn't a jest, mock, or spy function, and so we can't actually do an expectation on it. So the way we can fix this is to actually set up the expectation. So we can say jest.spyon console error. So that's going to wrap console error with a jest, spy, or mock that we can make assertions on. And then you can say mock implementation so that it doesn't actually log out to the console, so that nothing really happens. And at the end, you want to do console.error mock clear. UTC +2. Cool. So this is quite late for you, or fairly late. I'm not sure, but I'm glad you can join. I can understand that Fridays at 4 p.m. Eastern in my time zone are going to be much later for you, Norfeld. So glad you could make it today. And I might keep experimenting and try different times of the day and week to see when folks can make it. Yeah, so this, what I'm looking at here says we can call mock clear. You can put these calls to mock out error and restore it outside of your individual tests, and there's benefits to that. But let's just narrow it down for now and see if this allows us to make this assertion on console.error. Oh, well, right now we haven't actually had console.error do anything, so that's good. So we should get this test failing, and then we'll put it in. Expected some error message, and we received warning you called act. Oh, so that's interesting. The fact that our test is actually getting these react act errors is getting logged out here. So that's interesting. That kind of conflicts with this. Maybe I'll just do, for now, for good enough for now, maybe I'll just do console.log instead and see if that works for us. So we'll log out this error instead of calling console.error, because we'll want to handle the error in the UI ultimately anyways. Yeah, so we expected some error message to be called when this request to update to mark it as read fails, but instead we got nothing called. So let's now, using test-driven development, now let's make this test pass. We'll say try catch error, and we'll console.log error. And we'll add maybe mark read failed and the error. So that's something nice to log out to give us the context for what failed. Now let's scroll down in our test. Expected the function to be called with some error messages, but it was not. So once again, I'm confused. So let me spy on console logs, but console log has been called. Console log 1. Let's say console log 1, console log 2. Let's see where we get exactly. Console log 1 happens. So that's interesting. That's really logging out. Received 1, number of calls 1. So wait, it is getting to 2, so the update is succeeding. I wonder if the rejected value is actually getting swallowed somewhere inside here in the component library. Let's take a look. Let's dig into my library. This is really going down the rabbit hole here. The resource client implementation for update, catch extract error response. And what is extract error response? Yeah, so that should rethrow it. Mock rejected value, my error. Let's see if having that rejected value causes a problem. And makes our test behave the way we expect. Console log 1, console log 2. This is very surprising. Yeah, I did not prepare this in advance. Jest spy on. Is the timing not working out? Console error. Yeah, this is getting worrying to me. So maybe we'll back off on this. It is a good idea to log out to console error when it fails, but it seems like there was a deep level failure that was happening before. I guess I just didn't have patch. Do not stub http.patch. So maybe that'll cause it to happen. And yet that's not a realistic situation because that's where it's not actually returning anything. Yeah, mark read failed, cannot read properties of undefined, reading then. But that's not really a realistic thing because our real Axios client will return a promise from there. So my conclusion here is that this is not actually a very realistic scenario. So let's just take it out. And because we're not doing fully strict test-driven development in this case, I'm going to leave that console error in. Oh, you know what? We can take the response here. Let's see what the response is when we have a rejected value here. The response has the data undefined. So that was the interesting. Mock rejected value. I worry that this is actually an error in my library that shouldn't be working this way. Maybe it surfaces JSON API errors, but not like errors to actually hit the server. So I'm going to make it to do look into rejected promises in API client library. All right, so I've convinced myself that this is not a realistic test case, so we don't need it. I am going to commit the error just to have some kind of coverage there. All right. Update test to confirm that the menu is hidden. We've done that. Now I had it to do in here to reload the links or something, which is specifically when we mark a link as read currently, it's not disappearing from the list. But that's the behavior that we want from my other previous client, is that marking a link as read should make it actually go away. So let's do that in a test-driven development style. Let's write the test for that first, and then we could make it pass, because I'm not actually sure what is the best way to make it pass. Sometimes, a lot of times with tests, it's really encouraged to have one expectation per test and make it really focused. At this level, I've said in a previous stream that my focus is on really just regression testing of the application, because I'm not planning on doing a lot of change once I get it ported over. So I think we can add this assertion just a part of this test. Not only do I want to make sure that mark read has gone away, but I want to make sure, let me find out how I check for the existence. Test bookmark is what we're checking for. I also want to wait for element to be removed. Bookmark attributes title. So this should make sure that that bookmark is actually removed from the list. Now I'm going to only run this test. And my expectation is that this test is now going to fail, saying that bookmark attributes title was never removed. Timed out and wait for element to be removed, and it tells us which one. So what can we do here? When we go to the unread screen, we get this list of bookmarks from the server, unread bookmarks, and then we set it in the bookmark state locally. Then when we mark a bookmark as read, what do? There's a few ways we can handle this. I've talked about the idea before of using this local component state and really going to the server and asking the server for an update when something changes. So what we could do, we could rerun from the bookmarks to get them from the server here to show the update. The other option is to manually update our local cache of bookmarks to just remove this bookmark that we have indicated from the list here. And in this case, I feel like that's going to be simpler. It's just going to be a very quick call here, and I think it's going to make our test avoid it having to be coupled to multiple different mockings of the server data. So I'm going to do that. We don't need this console log response. Let me see if that got committed, and I can. Yeah, let me add that into the last commit. Okay. We don't need the response. All right. So if bookmark client update succeeds, or a certain definition of succeed, as I saw, I might need to have some looking into to do in my API client library, then we want to remove it. And we can say set bookmarks. And there's multiple forms of setter. Yeah, let's just do it this way. Bookmarks. Bookmarks filter. Bookmark. And we're saying I want all the bookmarks where the bookmark ID is not equal to item.id. It's interesting that I said item there instead of bookmark. So basically, update the bookmarks to exclude the one that we just marked as red. And I expect that this is actually going to, I'll put it in this order. I expect that this is going to cause the test to pass. So let's see. Unable to find element with text, test bookmark. Right, that makes sense. That's intentional. I think there might be something weird going on about wait for element to be removed. So let me actually look for it up here. Maybe the fact that it was found first is helpful. And there could be some kind of timing issue. It might actually like want to make sure at that time that it is found before it's not found. Okay, so that doesn't help. So yeah, let's try that. Let's say, well, let me try removing this wait and see. Okay, so that is passing now. Oh, can't perform a rack state update on an unmounted component. Cancel all subscriptions and asynchronous tasks at menu. Okay, I think the problem is that this is causing, this change is causing this menu to be unrendered. It's centered on there, but there's an animation happening. I'm not sure what best to do with that. These animation and timing things can get tricky. But let me get back to a better state. Let me say maybe this is this. Wait for element to be removed, mark red. What is going to be the best way to do that? It's like we need to wait for that menu animation to disappear before we remove the item. Can we animate the item out? That's probably not what we want to do. This is tricky. This menu choice of mine is interesting and surprising. Cancel all subscriptions and component will unmount in warning. You know, I think I'm going to ignore this one for now as well and look into this offline because I'm not confident I'll make quick progress. So I'll say to do fix warning with mark red disappearing. I think this will fail because I put this wait back in. I think I can change this to query by text and say expect query by text. Bookmark attributes title to be null. So by the time mark red is removed, this should be null already. Yeah, that's right. I've added another warning, but oh well. So, okay, we'll fix that warning later. So yeah, now we've made sure that the element is removed from the list. So let's see what that looks like for our running application. I'll remove the dot only. Make sure that works here. Test suite passes. Let's try to remove it. Apple mark red. And it goes away, and we get that same warning. That's fine. All good. No worries. Deal with that later. Cool. So let's commit this. Remove link when marked as red. Cool. So we've removed that link. So we've got some good test coverage going on here now, really covering what's happening in this component. And with that, the next thing I'd like to do is to do some refactoring. So we have a good amount going on in this screen here, and a good amount of nested JSX and logic and stuff like that. And if we could separate this out into something more manageable, we'll be in good shape. Oh, bookmarks there. Oh, that's interesting. That's using the approach where it's shadowing. Actually, I think I want to do that differently. I just want the bookmarks we already had. That should be fine. Let's see if it still passes like that. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so accessibility. Okay, so we want to extract this out. And so if I was doing a project where I was expecting a lot of change to happen, I would probably want to test at a very low level of all the different child components. But because this is a high level thing, I'm just going to stick with the screen test that we have. And all that I'm going to worry about is I'm going to let that test cover the extracted child components. So I'm not going to test what I pull out, but as long as everything in here is still passing, I'm going to assume that everything's fine because that's the confidence that I need. Oftentimes when you have a flat list, having the list item be extracted out as a child component is a good idea. So I'm going to do that here. And I'm going to start out with the smallest step by just putting it in the same file. I'm going to say function unread. Yeah, this is specific to unread. So unread bookmark row. Yeah, that sounds like a good name for it. And let's just try copy and paste it, and we'll see what comes with this. List item. Oh, so we're going to need, ESLint can even help us here. We need item passed in. We'll call it bookmark. Well, let's call it item for now to make the changes less. Is menu shown. So let's take that in as well as a property, is menu shown. And hide menu on hide menu. On show menu. And then we got the list icon and we got mark red on mark red. So we're taking all those passed in. So let's just save this and see if ESLint is happy with it. It is. Cool. So now we can replace this. We can say this is an unread bookmark row. And the item is item. And the is menu shown equals is menu shown for the item. And the on show menu show menu item on hide menu equals hide menu on mark red equals mark red. And so notice I've really minimized the information that's in this row. It's really a display item. Oh, open bookmark is included in there, but that's okay. So we really wanted to minimize unread bookmark rows coupling from the surrounding context. So we can remove this. This is all here. And so if we've extracted this well, our test should still pass because all of these things that need to be on the screen are on the screen and working fine. So let's see if we did it. Yep, all three of our tests have passed, so that extraction was good. The next thing is, I don't really like the name item here. I want this to be called bookmark. And so let's actually rename that here and say, oops, bookmark. You could even just pass in the title and URL separately, but I'm okay with coupling the bookmark row to our bookmark data structure. Yeah. And so we'll commit this as a refactoring. Extract row custom component. So how does that help us? So now our unread screen has this logic about loading and checking, showing and hiding and marking as read. So that's good, and then it's just displaying it, and then the flat list with the rows of items in there. And it's got that logic as well. And then in here we have the display specifics for this item. Now that I think about this, open bookmark, pulling that out of this row seems like it would be good as well. Nah, that's okay. I'm okay with coupling that in there. Maybe I'll move open bookmark down. Put it closer to it. I assume that'll still pass. And warnings aside, it does. I'm going to amend that onto there. So an item with a menu, pressable and list. Once there's more things in this menu, we may want to extract that out, but I think we're good for now. The next thing I think would be good to do for today, because it's so parallel to marking as read, is deleting an item. And that's different because marking as read, it still stays on the read list. Deleting it removes it from the system entirely. And this will be very much parallel. But let's do the deleting of the item in a test-driven development way, because we have a pattern to follow. When you have a pattern to follow in something richer, in like a user interface like React or React Native, you can follow it. And so we have one test where it allows marking a link as read. So why don't we just copy that and do the same for delete. Allows deleting a link. HTTP get, HTTP patch. I forget for Axios what the API is there. Axios.js, so let's look that up. Ruby on Rails has always thrown me off. Is it delete or is it destroy? So let's find out if it's delete. Patch, the Axios API, patch, it's delete. Okay, so we're following that. So we want to say delete mock resolve value. We click on actions, and then we're going to click delete. We want to make sure that HTTP delete was called with bookmarks 1. And I'm actually not sure what it all is passed, so let's say change me, and we'll let the code tell us what is passed in there. But as I said last time, we're going to look at what's passed to make sure the value is correct. And then we're going to make sure that mark read is gone and make sure that the bookmark is, oh yeah, this should not say, this should say menu disappearing. I'll leave that up there and make that change in another commit. We want to make sure that the bookmark is again removed because we've said the delete is gone. All right, so let's run this test. Let's only run this one test. We're going to see what error is out. We're going to drill in more specifically. Cannot read properties of undefined, reading mock resolved value. So HTTP delete hasn't been defined. This is because in my test utils, I only added in one method at a time. I could add all 6 of the HTTP methods in here, and maybe I will. Now that there's 3 of them, and there could very well be others. So there's get, delete, post, and put. I happen to know that put is not used in JSON API. So I think just having post is enough, and doing that proactive thing just to prepare us for the future is good. So let's take a look at the test now. Cannot find element with text delete. So that makes sense because we haven't added that item. So we're going to let the failing test give us one step at a time to get past the current error to move the test towards passing. So we're going to add a new menu item called delete. I'm going to have a on delete prop passed in. On delete. Up here we're going to say on delete equals delete item. And I think delete is actually a, yeah, this is a JavaScript keyword. Delete bookmark. Oh yeah, those items I think I would like to change to bookmark too up there, but I can do that refactoring separately. So let's say delete bookmark. Let's go ahead and call it bookmark here. And let's just copy and paste this. Well, let's do one thing at a time. We are going to have the console error there to help us in case we need it, but we're going to say bookmark delete, I think it is, bookmark ID, and we don't need any attributes because it's just the ID that's needed to say that it's being deleted. Oh, but wait a second. We don't need any of these contents here. We want to just first get past this error, unable to find an element with text delete. So by saving this with that menu item that we've added, we'll be able to find the text delete now. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's just write enough code to fix the test. Now we expected delete to be called with change me, but it wasn't called at all. So let's get that called. We are going to add the console error as well. So that's okay in case of errors to let us know. Delete failed. Gotcha. Okay, so now the test is telling us, the test failure is telling us what it was actually called with. So under the hood, delete was called with the path bookmarks/1. And that makes sense. This is bookmark 1. We're deleting it. And so we're going to say, make sure that it's called with bookmarks 1. We're now testing for the actual current behavior that we've confirmed is correct. So that'll ensure that keeps happening and is not lost later. We scroll down, timed out and wait for element to be removed. So delete is not being removed. So to get that removed, we need to set menu shown ID to null again to hide the menu. And now it says expected received to be null, but it is a node. So this is saying we expected the bookmark to be removed from the list, but it was still in the list. It was still present. So to remove it, we do the same. And in fact, I think we can, well, let me duplicate this and then I'll extract out a function. So we still, in the case of delete or marking red, we want to remove it from the local list. And because of the name here, we're going to need to say BID is not equal to bookmark ID. So give me all the bookmarks where the ID does not match this one. I think it didn't catch that rerun when I saved it. All right, our test is passed. Allows deleting a link. So our bookmark is actually successfully deleting. And I just realized, oh yeah, I did have the mark red and I had that working. So let's see here. Mark red and delete are both showing up. And let's go onto the web because on the web it's a bit easier to see with browser tools what exactly is going on. We're going to reload this page. Nope. Oh, I haven't. I'm going to reopen the web app version from the Expo screen. It's going to open up. It's going to log us in. So let's see the delete actually working, and let's see it actually calling the server with the right thing. Okay, so network. So if we call Android delete, then it's deleted from the list. And in this call here, it says, oh yeah, there is a delete call made to API bookmarks 34 to delete it. And when we reload the page, sure enough, Android does not come up. So it looks like that deletion is working successfully in production as well. We were able to use test-driven development to get that implemented. So let's commit that. I'm going to add these test utils changes first. Mock Axios call methods used by JSON API library. So that gets the rest of those in there. And then we're going to say we're implementing deleting bookmark. And then there's our test. Oh, we don't want the only. So let's remove the only. Make sure the tests run. Everything still passes. I guess this has gone beyond refining tests, but that's okay for this PR, and that'll be okay for today. Deleting of bookmarks. Norfeld says, nice work, thanks. I still don't love the fact that I have these warnings in here, so I might still look into those a little bit more offline. But we've got our test passing at least. I never said that testing React Native is perfect. I just said we could get awesome web and iOS apps running, and that's what we've got running. And I'm really passionate about testing, so I'd like to make that experience better. So we have test passing, and now with this test coverage, we can do some refactoring. So one thing I noticed is I called, in render item is the name of the named prop that we're getting. But when I call these methods up here, and I don't mind using item inline here as well, but up in these methods, it's a bookmark. And so I'd really like to call them bookmarks as well. Norveld says, I have a good experience using MSW, mock service worker, in case you're interested. Actually, I am interested. I have a coworker at my current client project who's mentioned mock service worker and is getting a lot of benefits for it for our React web application. So yeah, Norfeld, if you would be willing in the chat here to send me a message or send me a message on YouTube or some other avenue, let's connect. I'd love to learn more about mock service worker and how it could help out here and just to know more about it as a technology. So thanks for offering. Let's connect. All right, so to the refactoring, I'd like to call in these methods, like this is just a positional argument, so I can call it whatever I want, and I'd like to call it bookmark. So I'm going to change one at a time to make sure my tests show that things are still working. I'm going to do one and let it pass. They all still pass. So I feel pretty confident about the others. I'm going to do, let me do one at a time. Bookmark. And then down here, bookmark. But then I'm going to need to change this to BID. It's not equal to bookmark ID. Yeah, so those are now all named bookmark up there, but here they're item, and here it's named bookmark. So I'm going to say that arguments refer to bookmark. So that's just a naming improvement that makes our code easier to understand. And that's the kind of change that you might be hesitant to worry about if you're like, oh, I have to manually test this component all over again if I make this change to be sure. So when you don't have good test coverage, you're hesitant to make refactorings to improve understandability. But because we have this test coverage, we can make that change with confidence. There's one other thing, and I think it was the removal of this duplication. So we can pull this out into a helper function. We put it right here. No, maybe I'll put it up. It's kind of grouped with this. It's related to bookmark state. So I can say function remove bookmark. Is remove bookmark a clear enough name? I think so. That's fine. And let's do this. I always go back and forth as far as arrow functions or not. So to remove a bookmark, we just set the bookmarks to this. And so with that, we can go down here and we can say remove bookmark, bookmark. And down here, we can remove bookmark, bookmark. And actually what this means is we can give another name, a more specific name to this argument here. Bookmark to remove. So we could say bookmarks filter, bookmark ID is not equal to bookmark to remove ID. I think ESLint is going to reformat that line for us. So by adding another function here, we were actually able to give better names and to make this expression a little bit easier to understand. And our tests are still passing. So menu shown ID. Oh, and I've actually noticed that set menu shown ID null is a duplicate of hide menu, so we can reuse that as well. So let's commit this refactoring. Extract duplicate bookmark removal code. And now let's go and take advantage of this, because if we say hide menu here and hide menu here, that's more expressive and it avoids this duplication of this sort of implementation level detail to show us what's happening. So update the bookmark, hide the menu, and remove the bookmark. Delete the bookmark, hide the menu, and remove the bookmark. That reads much more clearly to me. And our tests are still passing. Use higher level hide menu utility function. So we've gotten some reuse from that. So our code is looking better. We have still some logic up here. A little bit of display happening here, but that's okay. And the details of our display are happening down here in the unread bookmark row. You know, something else you could do is to say, you know, we could put the menu state at a lower level component. We could say, call this an unread bookmark list. And so that could remove some of the separate out some of the API calls from the local state management. So let's experiment with that real quick. Another nice thing about good test coverage like this is you can experiment with a refactoring, like a component extraction, and see if you like it or see if you don't. So we'll experiment with this, and this will be our last thing for the stream for today. So let's say function unread bookmark list. And ESLint is helpful for us to let us know what state is needed to carry over and everything. So we got a flat list there. We're going to return. Incidentally, one of the things that I found about not using prop types or anything like that is that it's less threshold to actually extract a component. So you're more willing to do it to experiment. So I'm actually surprised. Oh, there we go. There goes ESLint. Okay, so we need bookmarks passed in. The menu stuff, I would like to actually move that down here as well. So let's pull that down, menu shown. I'm going to copy it for now and then delete it out later. Show menu, hide menu. Because this is all just in-memory stuff versus stuff that hits the server. And we'll say on mark read, on delete. And that is going to hit item. So that's more focused, so that's kind of nice. So we're not actually using this component now, we've just seen ESLint succeed. Well, let's see this. Bookmarks equals bookmarks. Let's copy up these props on mark read, on delete. And this is just going to call mark read and delete, and it's going to pass the item we pass along. So with that deleted, what else goes away? Is menu shown, show menu are not needed, but hide. Oh, so interesting. Check this out. So hide menu is no longer, set show menu ID is no longer available up here. So that's going to cause a problem. But I think I have a guess for how to make that work. So let me think about that. What I think we can do is remove hide menu from here. And this is kind of a significant change all at once. So if this doesn't work all at once, we'll go back and change it. I think what we can do is on mark read, on delete. So let me make some functions for this. Function handle mark read. Function handle delete item. We're going to call up to on mark read and call up to on delete. I'll make these async functions. Wait on delete. And then we're going to hide menu. So that's why that hide menu call comes back down to here. And we'll do this. And so now this doesn't have anything about the menu. So let's see. That was kind of a lot of a change at once. And so if that doesn't succeed, we should roll back and try again. We're going to run a little bit longer than 2 o'clock here. Our tests are passing, so my gamble has played off. This is not a good example for refactoring, but because I'm taking such large steps, but that's okay. Let's try it. So we got our code here. I'm sometimes not 100% sure that the reload happened, so let's see if this works. I want to mark read. It works. I want to delete. It works. And now if I reload, React Native should be at the top, and it is. So I think that works. So let's review this refactoring now that we've been able to get it working, and let's see if we like it. So the unread screen contains the logic for loading the bookmarks, removing them, marking read and deleted. and then it just displays the list. The list knows how to display the list and have a menu for them and hide and show them. And then that's actually passed down to this level. And it actually still makes sense that the menu state is not stored at the row level, because this ensures we only have one menu shown at a time. So that if I do, it's a little extra safety around one menu showing and another menu showing to make sure only one shows at a time. But yeah, that seems like good separation of concerns between unread screen, unread bookmark list, and unread bookmark row. This is the idea of single responsibility principle, that each function or component or piece of code only does one thing. So unread bookmark list handles the menu, and unread screen handles the bookmarks and management and state changes there. And so those concerns aren't intermixed. So that's nice. And because we have coverage that integrates the whole screen together, we're able to do this refactoring within this component to get this improved structure. So let's commit this as well, and then we'll be done. As I'm looking at this, I'm thinking about the fact that we've called these unread bookmark row and unread bookmark list. Once we have a read bookmark list, we may find that some of this code is reusable over there, but we can wait until that time. When you're doing, when you have good test coverage, you can wait to refactor until you have multiple uses, and you don't have to think in advance about separating things out. All right, so we've made some good progress today. So let's review what we've done. In our app, we went through, we fixed some warnings in the test output. We caused some additional warnings as well. Some more things that I need to look into to get things better in our test situation. We were able to update our test to confirm that the menu is hidden once we've marked a bookmark as read. And then from there, we were able to add add functionality, test first, to delete out a bookmark to get it disappearing. Actually, I should go back to the stream, and the last thing we're going to want to do just to close things out is to put this code up. Oh, we got my Discord showing. Nice. We want to push this up, this pull request. I'm going to open it up and get CI running. So this is finish, read more, feature, test, and implement delete. That is two different concerns. You could have those in two different pull requests, but for now, that's that. My tests are running on CI, so I'm just going to leave this up here happening as I'm blabbing. So we're in a better shape with our tests for this unread screen. I feel confident that our testing is covered, so confident that we were able to refactor to extract out child components to get a better separation of responsibilities there. We're now viewing items, we're adding them and deleting them, and as we've been doing this, our list of test data is getting shorter and shorter. So what we're going to want to do next time is the add functionality. We want to add a text box to be able to paste in a URL to be able to add a new link to the app. And because the backend does some cool stuff, we'll see some nice things falling out of there as well. So once we add, the other thing I'd like to do next time is the ability to edit a bookmark. One of the nice things that's going to come out of that is then we're going to be able to use the React navigation stack navigator to kind of push into another screen deep to be able to make changes there and then pop back out to the parent screen when we're done. And we're going to see from that some of the other things that fall out of this screen testing approach that I proposed, where we're testing at the screen level below React navigation so we can use React Native testing library to get things to work. So add and edit are going to be our focuses for the Friday stream in 2 days. We also may go and write tests for loading and error indicators. And we also might go, those other utility functions that are lower level that we implemented before we did testing, we might go write tests for those as well, so we can get full, thorough test coverage all the way through the app. You can see now that our GitHub action has succeeded and confirmed that on the server as well, the test is passing. The server doesn't care about those warnings, but I do. So we can merge this in. We're getting more and more progress in our application. So that's it for today's short. I'm showing my Discord again. That's it for today's shorter stream. Thanks so much for joining, Norfelt. Thanks for saying hey on the stream and chatting. Looking forward to connecting with you about mock service workers soon if we can. Anyone else watching on the stream or watching on the recording afterwards, thanks. I see several folks in the stream this time, so it's great to have a crowd on here. Please hit me up if you want to at codingitwrong.com. You can reach me to find out about future streams. Hit me up on social media, email, comments on blog posts. Would love to chat. And for folks watching this recording afterwards, would love your comments and questions in the YouTube comments. So yeah, thanks folks for joining. Maybe see you again in a couple days or catch the recording soon as we continue to move forward implementing this mobile app with Expo for mobile and for web. So thanks for joining, everyone. Take it easy.